Sometimes I come across exciting insider information long before a product is supposed to launch, like really long before. For example, I knew about Sierra Forest multiple years before even the code name was officially confirmed by Intel in late 2023. Actually, I know exactly how many years before I knew that because in preparation for this video, I looked through some of my old emails and I can confirm that it was in the beginning of 2021 that I knew about this Intel product almost 3 years before the code name, not even the product, was confirmed by the company. And, I can understand why maybe to you, the person watching this right now, it might seem odd, almost random which things I know and when I leak things. Sometimes I leak things a month before they happen, and sometimes I leak them multiple years. Like, how can I possibly know something about like Zen 8 or Zen 9 when I technically don't know every single detail about Zen 7 yet? Well, I don't know what to tell you besides that's just how this works sometimes. Sometimes I have a source or access to a document that details things well beyond what you'd think I know by now. And actually, there are many examples of this. It's not just Sierra Forest. For example, I knew basically all specs and even performance metrics for Strix Halo years before it launched, and even half a year before I knew the firm details about Zen 5 Desktop. Or if you want another example, I knew about Meteor Lake and its architecture for the core, Redwood Cove, in 2020. Alder Lake hadn't even launched yet, and I didn't even know about Raptor Lake until a year after I had leaked Redwood Cove. And remember, it went Alder Lake, Raptor Lake, then Meteor Lake. So yeah, sometimes I know little details about future architectures before I know all the details or even any of the details about an architecture before that one. Sometimes AMD is sloppy and they will include some information about a future product in a document predominantly about something else, and then that's how I will know about that thing way out in the future before I probably should know. Or sometimes a product really isn't conceived of until it's closer to launch than usual. Or sometimes someone at AMD, NVIDIA, or Intel simply overhears something that they usually wouldn't hear that early, but they do, and then I get to leak something ultra early. And just to be clear, yeah, one reason that I often don't leak things super early, even if I know them long ahead of time, is to protect my sources, because the farther out something is, oftentimes the less people in a company know about it. But that's not always true. And today, well, I guess I'll just say this. I am 100% sure that what I'm leaking today isn't going to get any of my sources in trouble. I won't say how I got this info, how I was able to double confirm some of it, but I'm just sure of that. And so, well, let's stop dancing around it. Let's stop wasting time. There it is on screen. Zen 8's core is codenamed Penelope, and Zen 9's is Nemesis. And I actually do have some more to say about these things as well, because I just think from the codenames we can actually conclude some pretty important stuff about AMD's future against Intel. And I also have some updates on the Samsung SSD situation. But first, an ad from a sponsor. This piece of content is brought to you by Heroes of History, a strategic city builder plus hero collector RPG where you can recruit legendary figures from across human history and mythology to build a time-spanning civilization, battle through campaigns, events, and utilize your empire and these characters in PvP modes. Specifically, yep, this game combines city building, hero collecting, and real-time battles to create fun situations, like, for example, Joan of Arc lobbying AoE attacks at an enemy army, while Napoleon tactically leads your Spartan hoplites. And it really is a goofy game. Like, here's Einstein helping me set up my Stone Age empire. Does it entirely make sense that Einstein is in the Stone Age? No. Is it fun? Yeah. And by the way, now is a great time to get in as they are running a special winter event. In fact, that's just a great feature of this game in general, the fact that they have seasonal events regularly to keep the gameplay fresh. But right now, it's a special winter event, and if you follow the links and directions below in the description, you can unlock your first 5-star hero for free if you are a new player. Doing this helps the channel a ton, and it costs you nothing, so please do that to support Moore's Law is Dead. But also, it gets you a good quick start to the game with that 5-star hero. So support Moore's Law is Dead by checking out Heroes of History today. And so let's continue here. Again, Zen 8's core codename is Penelope, and Zen 9's is Nemesis. And by the way, their abbreviations are PL for Penelope and NM for Nemesis. I know a lot of the time I forget to tell you what the official abbreviation is behind the scenes, and then everyone's guessing how they should abbreviate it when they argue about it on Discord or on Reddit, but that's what it is, PL and NM. And if you will notice, that's a 2-character keyword, not a 3, right? Like Medusas, for the Zen 6 Medusa families, MDS3. Why would it only be 2? Well, that's because this is for the codename for the core architecture. It's not the name for any of the finished SoCs or the family. I say that to make it clear that this leak today is more analogous to my Zen 7 Prometheus leak from years ago, not my recent Zen 7 Grimlock leak. Prometheus, core codename, Grimlock, the codename for the family of Zen 7 products. But yep, it's still super early, and therefore the code names are most of what I know about Zen 8, and especially about Zen 9. I mean, to be clear, I am sure these will both be on the recently leaked AM6 socket. I can tell you that. They're not going to be on AM5. They'll be on AM6. And by the way, despite what some leaks claimed, no, Zen 7 isn't on AM6. Zen 7 is on AM5, and then they will transition to AM6 with Zen 8. So I guess I can confirm that detail as well. But everything else, like even if it will use DDR6, yeah, I think so. I can't say I'm 100% sure, but I would say I'm like 90% sure of DDR6 that will be used with Zen 8 and Zen 9, considering that I know Zen 7 is going to stick to DDR5 for consumer. But for the PCIe generation, I'm not really sure. I mean, we've been on 5.0 in consumer for a while. 6.0 right now is coming to server, and then with Zen 7, yeah, you'll have 6.0 on server, probably 5.0 for consumer, but I don't know, maybe they would just skip to PCIe Gen 7. I don't think so. I think they will just go to Gen 6 because it's way more than what consumers need, probably even by the time Zen 8 comes out, but yeah, that's basically what I know. Zen 8 and Zen 9 will be on AM6, and they will probably use DDR6 and PCIe Gen 6, but I can't even say I'm 100% sure about that. And that's because it's, well, look, Penelope is going to be lucky to launch before 2030, and Nemesis is likely to be even a 2032 product. But actually, that last bit, how far out these products are. You know, Zen 8 launching in like 2029 or 2030, and Zen 9 probably launching 21 or 2032, maybe 33 though. That far out, having these code names and having these code names attached to still the Zen branding, that is important. I think we can read into that because it suggests that AMD intends to keep using the Zen naming likely for another decade, and therefore not reinvent the wheel for about another decade as well. Most likely, at least. And I want to be clear that the reason that's notable is that about a year and a half ago in that Prometheus leak, I reported that there was some consideration I was hearing behind the scenes. Like back in 23 and 2024, AMD was thinking about possibly after Zen 6 or after Zen 7, moving past the Zen branding and maybe going into an entirely new direction in a post-Zen world with multiple different core architectures for specific markets. But seeing Zen 9 clearly labeled, that tells me that is not the direction AMD is going to go. They're not going to try to reinvent the wheel with all of these expensive architectures like what Intel's been doing recently. They're going to keep innovating with their standard, 20 to 40% uplift every generation, but that adds up over time, and it allows AMD to avoid having as many delays and wasting as much money as what Intel has been forced to do recently. And to be fair, I already pretty much came to this conclusion in a recent video after I saw that, at least with Zen 7, AMD was planning to only use Zen 7 and just divide it up into about a half a dozen sub-architectures. That would also tell you they're not planning to make a bunch of different things if Zen 7 will be split up that much. But seeing Zen 8, seeing Zen 9, that gives me even more confidence, and I'm happy to see that. And that's basically it when it comes to my Zen 8 Penelope and Zen 9 Nemesis leak today. It was the last big leak that I wanted to be sure I got out before the end of 2025, and that's because of all the other reasons that I mentioned earlier in this video, but also just, if I'm being honest, I wanted to make sure I got these code names out before some other leaker might scoop me on them, and so now I have. This is like kind of the ending of a massive trove of information that I have been sitting on that I accumulated throughout 2024 and 2025 on Zen and AMD information. And so this kind of allows me to just put that away and then next year start building up a new relook at everything AMD is going to be doing in the future for fresh videos with fresh information. Well, maybe besides one pretty big leak that I'm maybe saving to have come out over the holidays or early next year, but you have to wait for that one. And anything else besides that one, which I know I'm being coy, but it is what it is. I don't think there's really a point, actually, in if I tried to dig more into Zen 8 or Zen 9 right now. It's just so far out that a lot can change. In fact, a fun tidbit I want to drop on you all is, like I said earlier in the video, I looked at some old emails from Intel sources that detailed things like Sierra Forest and other architectures. And just to give you an idea of how much things can change, I forgot this. Initially, Sierra Forest was aiming to have 800 Atom cores, and it only ended up getting 288 cores, and only in the extreme variant, actually. And in fact, Granite Rapids, I'm not kidding, I found this. I actually did completely forget about this. Granite Rapids, as of 2021, was planning to go to 4-way hyperthreading. That's right, not Diamond. Granite was at least playing around with going to 4-way hyperthreading, but what it ended up happening, it only had 2-way, and in fact, what we know right now is that Diamond Rapids probably has no hyperthreading at all. So going from 800 cores in Sierra Forest concept to 288 in practice, going from 4-way hyperthreading in Granite Rapids to 2-way in Granite Rapids, and actually removing it probably from Diamond, a lot can change. And so there really wouldn't be a point in me telling you more of the specs of Zen 8 and Zen 9, even if I successfully got more info out of my sources. It's just too early for that. All right, and so that is it for that Zen 8 and Zen 9 leak. But before I let you go, I would be remiss if I didn't spend a little bit of time updating you all on what's going on with the Samsung SATA SSD situation. Now, of course, I recently leaked that Samsung was at least effectively, if not entirely, halting SATA SSD production early next year, especially when it comes to what they will supply to the consumer market. I have to touch on this briefly because, well, there's been a lot of FUD spread about that leak that I put out by someone that writes for WCCF Tech. FUD that included, as far as I can tell, fabricating a statement from Samsung, which is wholly immoral. And I don't know why that person would be allowed to write again if they pulled a stunt like that. But either way, I don't control what websites publish. I can only control what I publish. What I can say is don't pay attention to that FUD. And in fact, Carbon Cry over at Moore's Law is Dead wrote an excellent article that dismantles this FUD. And he does it in a somewhat broader way so that you can apply it to how you read articles in the future. You know, the 4 signs, 4 things you should look for to determine if a piece of reporting is worth taking seriously. Can't recommend it enough. It's an excellent piece. Check it out. It's not just applicable to leaks from today. It's applicable to how you might read things online in the future. And that's not all, though. Part of that piece, you know, before I put it out, before I got even more confidence to say, let's do this, let's run this piece that dismantles this bad reporting out there, I, of course, circled the wagons with my sources this week, going over if we were still sure on what I reported regarding Samsung SATA SSDs. And the answer is we are. We believe that that is still the correct reporting. Samsung is, at least in some form, halting production, at least effectively so, of SATA SSDs early 2026 in order to shift resources to more lucrative products for the AI market. This does not mean, though, and it was never claimed that it meant, I have to say this to clear up the FUD out there, it never meant that Samsung will stop making SSDs forever. Only a careless idiot would suggest that and spread information that damaging out there. That is not what I said, and of course Samsung would never do that. In fact, I even went as far as to say in that video that long-term SSD volume will return to normal, and it's like Samsung is leaving the market long-term at all. It's just short-term. They are pulling supply off the SSD market, and that will jack up prices early next year. Additionally, in that article, I didn't even say that Samsung could never make SATA SSDs again. I said for the foreseeable future, they don't seem to have a firm date on when they'll ever do so again. I mean, yeah, look, maybe Samsung will respin up SATA SSD production eventually, but short term, it's going to be very painful. And so if you need an SSD for anything really, get it now. Do not wait. Do not follow reports that are really lying to you about how bad the situation is going to be. early next year. In fact, a little tidbit I will leave you with here about how bad things are already getting for retailers who are desperately trying to get a hold of SATA SSDs right now for their customers to stockpile ahead of time. I'm already told some retailers are being denied, and that they're basically being told, if you need more SATA SSDs, go to a different retailer and buy up what they are selling at market cost. And that is just how bad things are going. It's already starting to throttle, and by early next year, it's going to get really, really bad. Now, look, Samsung does have outstanding contracts they need to fulfill, so you'll probably still see reports Samsung's still shipping. They can still ship SATA SSDs even if they're not making them. And they can supply some key OEM customers with outstanding contracts without supplying retail and do-it-yourself. And so, again, for do-it-yourself gamers, I stick by that reporting. Please buy now if you need an SSD next year. And please don't listen to the FUD that is out there. And all right, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure that you like it and share it and comment down below for the algorithm. And then also, double check that you are subscribed to Moore's Law is Dead on YouTube. Subscribing also helps a lot, and so does ringing that bell button so you don't miss upcoming content. There will be a ton of upcoming content coming throughout the rest of the year. There will be a new episode with David Does Tech Stuff. And actually, if you join Moore's Law is Dead at the lowest tier on Patreon, the $1.28, the 128-bit tier, you'll get access to asking David questions. You'll also get access to a catalog of dozens of essential die shrinks. And if you go to the $2 tier or higher, you'll also get access to hundreds of other die shrink episodes, a Discord, and the ability to ask questions for die shrink episodes, which I'll be recording one in under 24 hours with Carbon Cry, the writer of that article that I mentioned in this video. So you can ask him and me questions about what we think about integrity in journalism and what it was to put together this dismantling of FUD that is out there. Consider supporting us there. We cannot do this without our patrons. And for everybody else, though, if you made it this far into the video, thank you for watching, and make sure you travel safe this holiday season.